Okay, let's try this again. I just finished this entire presentation and I look on the video and I made the PowerPoint full screen and it just says something. It just says little words there and it didn't show any of my slideshow. So I published it to the internet. We're going to try this again. I'm not going to make it full screen. We're going to hope the devil doesn't try to frig with us again. And we're going to spread the good message. Don't worry if I'll have to friggin' do it 5 times. I'll just redo it. So let's get into it. I think it's going to work this time. So, in our philosophy little mini series that we have here, it's not going to be a mini series, it's going to be a huge series. Um, I'm starting off by discussing the beginner's mind. What a better concept to begin with than the beginner's mind, right? So, let's just get right into it. Beginner's mind. It is a wisdom which is seeking for wisdom. Zen mind, beginner's mind. This body of writing has been linked to the works of Aristotle and Plato for its historical significance. If you can see behind me, I have a copy of it. Amazing book. I'll be discussing the beginner's mind concept. We're not going to go into the whole book, but there will be quotations from this book and stuff. I highly recommend you go and purchase it. Find it anywhere, eBay, Amazon, thrift shops probably. I think I got this one gifted to me from my father. I might have found this at Value Village, actually, a thrift shop here. Very valuable content. Let's get into it. Daisetsu Suzuki brought Zen to the West. 15 years later, Shunryu Suzuki would follow up his well-received work. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the experts, there are few. Shunryu Suzuki, aka Suzuki Roshi, stayed in America because he believed Americans to have a beginner's mind and are open to Zen. Also, their questioning of Zen gives it life. A Roshi is a person that has actualized the perfect freedom, which is the potentiality of all things. So, this is Suzuki Roshi right here. A little short fella, okay? Very modest and very, some would say quiet. It says, the way and the man were merged. Shunryu's non-ego left no room for interpretation. He didn't try to inject any of himself into his work. The Soto Zen movement is now thriving in the West. First Soto Zen monastery in the West on the outskirts of San Francisco at the Tasajara Zen Mountain Center. Beautiful place. When he came initially, Suzuki Roshi had to take the legacy of his father, because once the monastery was passed down, he was only 30 at the time. So he had to take on a lot, and he had to take on another monastery back home. But when he came to America and moved the monastery to the Zen Mountain Center, he was working on this lot. He had a lot on his plate. So he wanted to get some of his lectures transcribed, so he had to reach out to one of his disciples. He left as much as any man can leave, everything essential, the mind and heart of Buddha, the practice of Buddha, the teaching and life of Buddha. He is here in each one of us if we want him. Houston Smith, professor of philosophy at Massachusetts, that wrote the prologue to this book. He wrote the preface. Trudy Dixon, a Wellesley graduate who also studied children, took on the large feat of translating Shunryu's lectures to encapsulate all of his subtleties. She was diagnosed with cancer at the time and was balancing a married life with 2 young children. And this is her scene. This is Suzuki Roshi and Trudy, amongst other people. Suzuki Roshi takes a mundane, anti-mystical approach in how he delivers the Buddhist philosophy, trying to convey the whole of the teachings by phrases as simple as, have a cup of tea. And this image below here is a Japanese tea ceremony with all the geishas. Satori. Satori is a Japanese Buddhist term for awakening, comprehension, understanding. It is derived from the Japanese word satoru. In the Zen Buddhist tradition, satori refers to a deep experience of kensho, seeing into one's true nature. Ken means seeing, sho means nature or essence. The aims of this book is to have the reader acknowledge his Zen mind. Zen mind is a term used by teachers to make you notice yourself, to go beyond the words and wonder what your own mind and being are. The purpose of Zen is to make you wonder and to answer that wondering with the deepest form of expression. The innocence of the first inquiry, what am I, is needed throughout Zen practice. The mind of the beginner is empty, free of habits of the expert, ready to accept, to doubt, and open to all possibilities. Socrates said, I know that I know nothing. Because if you have an open-mindedness, then the truth becomes available to you. To remain childlike but not childish. I just put this on here because look at the expressions on these kids, dude. This girl is not trying to have any sort of filters. She's just expressing her emotion without any barriers, you know? This little dude is so locked in what he's doing. When do we ever have that sort of focus or inquisitiveness about us as adults, right? This little dude, he's got some great energy to him. Children always are the closest to divinity, right? We don't have to reteach them, make them believe that they need to relearn everything. We just have to instill their values that they're encapsulating. So the Zen way of calligraphy is to write in the most straightforward, simple way as if you were a beginner, not trying to make something skillful or beautiful, but simply writing with full attention as if you were discovering what you were writing for the first time. Then your full nature will be in your writing. As you can see, this little circle here, very simple, but precise, and the beauty comes from its simplicity. English is thoroughly dualistic in nature. It is in its basic assumptions and has not had the opportunity over centuries to develop a way of expressing non-dualistic Buddhist ideas. So a lot of the trouble in the West is that our language doesn't even promote spiritual modes of thinking, you know? So once you start to develop a better spiritual vocabulary, look into philosophies, different religions, your mind really gets expanded to the point of seeing beyond the Maya and dissolving your ego. So there's just a little cool diagram up here. We all know the yin and yang, but then we got monism, non-dualism, and pluralism. We can get into all those in a different slideshow. I just wanted to briefly touch on them here because it talked about dualism. And the little diagram below here, the observer is not separate from the object observed. So basically, separateness is an illusion. As you can see there, the little flowers in her head as well. She knows that as above, so below. She is a direct reflection of the manifest and the inverse. Trudy divided the book into 3 sections: right practice, right attitude, and right understanding, which roughly translates to the body, mind, and soul. And they're in this chronological order, but I'm not going to be discussing each of these sections in depth. You'll have to buy the book for that. I'm doing a brief overview on the concept of beginner's mind. So, Suzuki Roshi is very fond of the frog because it sits so still, it might be asleep, but is alert enough to notice every bug that approaches. The Roshi's inner world can be differentiated from the self-centered ego by the purifying qualities that remain once it is dissolved. The alchemical process of denouncing what you are not to reveal what you are is seen here on the right. And basically, a nice little allegory to explain this is, say if you take a theologian or just someone that is very religious, right? They prescribe to certain doctrines. They tend to think that God is something that can be attained and is external, right? As if they had a blank canvas and they were trying to apply paint to it. But the alchemist and the spiritualist, the mystic, his point of view on the whole thing, he looks at it like if he were an artist, he would be a sculptor, right? Removing the impurities, process of denouncing to reveal the inner light and the inner beauty. Basically, you have everything inside you. You just have to lose your preconceived notions and fear-based thoughts and a lot of things that got instilled in you over the years. If you lose a lot of that, a lot of the time you're left with everything that you desire. These underlying Buddha-like qualities of the Roshi reside within us and are accessible. They include but are not limited to buoyancy, vigor, straightforwardness, simplicity, humility, serenity, joyousness, and unfathomable passion. On the left here we have some interior Zen design, Japanese Zen design illustrating simplicity. I'm a big fan of this design too. I love the minimalistic design. Very airy. A Roshi's whole being testifies to what it means to live in the reality of the present. We'll go over the little top diagram here. Mindful or mindful? As you can see, the dog is just being a dog. He is not confused. He knows why he knows his destiny that he has to fulfill on this earth. Even though he might not be thinking that existentially, he is just doing his thing, you know? He's not trying to be anything he's not. He's just being a dog. But the human here, instead of just walking as a human and enjoying the trees and the sun and his pooch, what is he doing? He's worrying about bills, his wife, worrying about many things, right? When if you clear your mind, those things don't go away, but you can just approach them with a higher level of just peace and understanding, and tackle them easier one by one. You're not letting them just stress you out, so you have analysis paralysis. On the bottom here, we have some great practical examples of mindfulness that you can incorporate into your daily life, just like exercise, cloud gazing, cooking, taking baths, taking your pooch for a walk, open-mindedness, forgiveness, spend time with nature. I like this one at the bottom here. It says chat with friends and listen, specifically the listen part, because, you know, if you're just talking shit, you might not gain a lot of the experience that you wish to. But if you listen, a cool little factoid that a lot of people don't know is that people that you might think you're more spiritually evolved than someone and talk over them, right? Or just don't bother talking about that. But if you truly listen to everybody, they all have value in what they're saying. And a funny thing is that sometimes if the person isn't very conscious, they'll say very profound things unknowingly because the universe is trying to give you a message through them. So don't discredit humans. Hear them out, and there'll be a lot of substance to gain from their life experience alone. Merely meeting such a developed personality can impact and change one's life. So if you see this dude over here to the left, if you were to go dap him up, I'm pretty sure there'd be an energy exchange. He wouldn't have to tell you his philosophies, you know? Just by looking at his smile. I get good energy from it. On the right, we have something kind of macabre here. This is a deceased monk, exhumed 2 months after being buried, basically dug up. Dead as a doorknob, still cheesing, guys. If you'll look at his cheeks, like he's smiling. This fella's over here saying, "He really dead?" This is sus. He's smiling. Dead dudes don't smile. But if anyone knows anything about monks, some of them like to do live mummification. So they meditate until they die, and then as you can see, I mean, he went out happy, so it's pretty cool. I just want to demonstrate that merely meeting a person such as this, you know, can impact and change one's life. He's smiling and he's dead. Okay. In the end, it's not the extraordinariness of the teacher that deepens intrigue, it's his ordinariness. He is just himself and a mirror to his student. And on the right here, I just have a picture of a monk doing his thing, taking a picture on a cell phone, you know? He's just a normal human, but he's expanded his consciousness. He still has his consciousness that he started with. It's just expanded to the point where, you know, he has so much existential knowledge in his brain. But he still has his human-like attributes, and he still tries to live a simple life, you know? There's no holier than thou attitude. He's just a regular human. While the mirror's philosophical etymology derives from the sun god Amaterasu, the Japanese Shinto mirror is placed on the altar in place of a deity to help one realize one's own divinity. So as you can see on the far right picture here, we got no idolatry on the altar whatsoever. Just a mirror facing the woman's face to reflect that she's all she needs. Yara no Kagima. The Yara no Kagima represents wisdom or honesty, depending on the source. Mirrors in ancient Japan represented truth because they merely reflected what was shown. When we are with him, we feel our own strengths and shortcomings. Richard Baker about Shunryu Suzuki. And that same phrase would probably apply to a lot of mystics and sages. The difficulty in Zen derives from the ability to keep one's thoughts and practice pure. We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. When we do a task for the first time, we are very attentive and cautious. By the third or fourth, we lose our initial effort exertion because we feel confident in the practice or idea. And everyone knows that's ever had a job. Complacency is safety's worst enemy, right? I feel like I'm doing one of these safety presentations at the at the oil field. We must always return to the limitless mind. Here's some limitless quotes from some famous individuals. I believe in everything until it's disproved, so I believe in fairies, the myths, dragons. It all exists, even if it's in your mind. Who's to say that dreams and nightmares aren't as real as the here and now? That's John Lennon. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca. When you become comfortable with uncertainty, infinite possibilities open in your life. Eckhart Tolle. Very on point. Because if you're at home in yourself, when you leave your home, you're like a turtle. You carry your home on your back, you're comfortable. Nobody can throw you out your game. The beginner's mind is open and empty. There is no room for desires or I have attained this thoughts. So nothing is more precious than being in the present moment, fully alive, fully aware. Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm not going to go into all these. I did in my first presentation, but this is just the 16 basic desires so you can practically try to not desire. I'll go through the outside ones, but basically this is showing the motives of each one. So for example, curiosity. The motives behind that are knowledge and truth. A lot of these we can see are egoic in nature, and a lot of them seem to be not egoic in nature, but when we take the motives, we see, oh, okay, like romance, for example. That's a romantic idea, right? But then the motives, beauty and sex, that kind of seems a little bit egoic. Natural, but egoic. Vengeance. So a lot of these desires, basically if we try to not desire anything except for understanding and peace of mind, then a lot of the other things just fall into place by themselves without any effort. I'll leave this up for a sec. You guys can check it out. I'm going to see if my presentation's even working. Okay, good. It's working this time. Moving on. This is a little personal experience here. Personal account of my dealings with this. So, working as a scaffolder, scared of heights. True story. I soon realized the fear response was a tool to aid in my survival. A safety meeting brought the peace of mind I needed, but didn't fully eliminate the physical response, which turned out to be a good thing because this biological super alert anxiety state is actually quite beneficial. If the mind is attentive and aware of potential hazards, they can easily be spotted and rectified or avoided. And if you're too comfortable with your job, you might, as we discussed earlier, get complacent, right? There's definitely room for injury there. And if you're bare knuckling the handrail and if you won't move, obviously that's on the other spectrum and that's too scared. But just to be aware in the moment, you're uneasy, but that's a good thing, you know? Anxiety is put there in our bodies as a fight or flight response because out of evolution it was um, beneficial for us. Now it's more of a hindrance, but at the same time, it's just a feeling. We don't have to attach a negative connotation to it. It puts us in the moment, it gets us alert, and when we accept that, eventually the feeling does subside. And then once you're locked in, you do feel less anxious feelings in your heart and stuff, and you just kind of go with the flow, you know? Let us return to our childlike wonder and zest for life. May we strive for the knowledge of self from within and peace of mind instead of material success. Let us accept our divine nature and be an example for those who seek an external God by keeping our thoughts and actions pure. Let us never lose our beginner's mind. Look at that little fella, isn't he cute? Noobs for life. Okay? The end. Now I want to go into something else here. This is the end of that. Pick up the book, guys. It's great. Look into Zen, Zazen philosophy. Okay? Buddhist philosophy. Maintain your beginner's mind. Okay? Be inquisitive, open to new experiences, and excited, guys. But that kind of transitions into my next topic here because I wanted to discuss something here. There's a female that I watch on YouTube. I'm not going to say any names, but she has beautiful energy. Okay? And every time she gets excited, I get so excited too. But then sometimes she says, "Oh, I'm getting excited. I need to chill out." And then she stops, you know? And that high vibing energy is just so valuable, you know, in the world, especially at this time, that just for anybody that has any energy like that, just please, you know, let it out because it's only beneficial to society. Like good vibes, you know? If anyone clowns you for that, you're spreading good vibes and you're clowning me for spreading good vibes, you know? So don't worry about others' judgments on being true to yourself and being happy. Okay? Spread those good vibes if you're high vibing. And another thing that relates to this subject in self-confidence mastery, guys, is if you express your true self unin I can't even think of the word. There's a bunch of different uns that's coming to my brain. Uninhibited is what I'm trying to say, I think. But anyways, other people will accept whatever you're putting out there. So if you're awkward and shy, they'll think, "Oh, this guy's awkward and shy," obviously, right? But even if you're faking the funk, fake it till you make it, and you portray a confident exterior, you'll get received as such because they'll say, "Oh, this guy thinks he's confident, so he must be like." If he, whatever you think you are, other people will assume that as well. So for any handsome guys out there that has game of trying too hard, you know, that's something that different guys have to learn. You need to learn your game. If you're a little short, chubby guy and you're funny as hell, you spit those bars at that lady and you make her laugh, right? Not saying that's all you got, but that's that's your game right there. Is having a great personality. But if you're a person who just has an athletic, you know, exterior and stuff, and if you're trying that hard, a lot of the time you get received as a guy that has something wrong with him because, if this guy is quote unquote handsome, why is he trying so hard and why is he like love bombing and stuff? So basically, you need to be yourself. You don't try too hard, or people will think that there's something wrong with you, you know? Fall in the middle of the spectrum and just express yourself literally however you want if you're controlling your tongue, right? Just like in comedy, if someone laughs at themselves, they're received as funny because they're truly laughing, so that's a real response, which triggers a response in other people. And when you're just kind of lighthearted and just saying what you think is funny to yourself, other people will think that as well. So please don't stifle your beautiful energy, everybody, and you'll get received better as well. And another thing, if you express your truest self, like minds attract like minds, you'll attract people that you truly enjoy better in your life. You won't attract the wrong people because you're portraying an image that isn't close to your inner self. So instead of being lost in the sauce, take the Zen approach and just be. Just be, guys. Okay, hopefully this presentation worked right now. If it didn't, I'm banging it out again. Have a good night, everybody. Pick up the book. I'll be doing more philosophical little slides like this. I had a fun time with it, if it works.